Hello again, everyone. So, let's talk about a new type of loop called the for loop. And it basically does the same thing as a while loop. It's a different way to write it. And it has, it's used in some situations more often than a while loop, and in some situations when we use a while loop. But it's just another tool we can use in our programming toolkit. So here's how it goes. We're going to say for make up some variable num in. This part isn't going to be the same the whole time, but for now we're just going to use in range, and then I'm going to say 10, and I'm going to print out this is the value of num. Now we're going to print out num, and I mean that's basically it. Let's just run it. So it says this is the value of num, 0 all the way up to 9. So again, it stops one short of that 10, but it does run for 10 loops. So the basic gist is it's going to run for some specified amount of time. And in this case, the time is defined with this range function. It assumes that num is starting at 0 and goes up from there. However, this isn't. We'll talk about this later, but there's other ways we can use the for loop and different starting conditions and stuff. Let's just look at some simple program. I'm going to take. What if I wanted to add up all the numbers in a certain range? Like, what if I wanted to add up all the numbers from 0 to 100? Well, we know it's this loop starting at 0. To get to 100, it have to end at 101 because it always stops like 1 before. And what we can do is total is equal to total plus the number. Now, the reason why we have to set up this new variable is because, well, I'll show you in a second. Let's just run this. Actually, let me print out, the total. So we defined this total value outside of the function, and so let's run this. Total is equal to the total plus the number of that's represented by the for loop. So when we run it, it calculates 5050. It's because num starts at 0, so it first does 0 plus 0, which is 0. And then it goes up. Now num is 1, and it adds 0 with 1 to get 1. And then num is 2, and then it adds 1 with 2 to get 3, and so on, all the way up until num is at 100. So this is a program that just sums up all the numbers from 0 to 100. Now, why define total out here? Well, if I tried to use num, right, it would just be, the value of num would just be 100. So it wouldn't be adding the sum with itself every time. Num would end at 100, but it wouldn't sum up the values like we would like. What else? So there's different ways we can use this range function, and I'm just gonna take this very basic. We're just gonna look at the value of num as this for loop is progressing and get rid of that. So let's say I am going to put a comma and then some other parameter in there. And let's try like 5. Oh, the loop doesn't run. So let's shorten this down to 1. And look at that. It starts at 1 and goes up to 4. So you can use this comma to define a starting position and an ending position. So let's say I want to end at 100 again. So I'm going to set it to 101. And yep, we start at 1 and go all the way up to 100 now. So if we use 2 parameters or 2 arguments, the first one is the starting position, the second one is the ending position. And I can add a third one. And if I put it as 2, let's see what happens. Well, would you look? Let's do a 0. Wow, isn't that cool? So these values are going up by 2s each time. So if you add a third argument, what that does is it defines what's called your step, how much you're increasing the value of num by each iteration, each loop. So if I put a 2 there, it goes up by 2s. If I put a 5 there, it's going to go up by 5s. So this is how we can use that range function in different ways. Very handy, and these for loops are very nice because they're really concise and easy to read most of the time. If you have a particular, like, you know exactly what you want your loop to do, you know when it's going to start, when it's going to end, it's just predetermined. For loops are really good for that because they have these very well-defined starting, stopping values, and they're just very nice in that way. So while loops, for loops, those are the 2 major types of loops. There's other ones called like a do while loop, which maybe we'll get into at some point. I don't know, but you know, we will we'll take a look at some of this stuff down the line.